Today is Buddha Purnima. It's the day that Buddhists celebrate to mark the life and teachings of Lord Buddha. He walked on earth about 2,500 years ago, and his words and wisdom have spread across the world. I have a very special association with Buddhism as well. In my younger days, I spent 3 months in Burma, ordained as a monk with head shaven, yellow robes, practicing meditation. But more importantly, my mother, Freda Bedi, then Gelongma Palmo, went on to become the most important Buddhist nun in the world. So it is also in her memory that we are talking today. And we're going to talk today to one of the most important Tibetan incarnates. The Tibetans believe not only in reincarnation, but have made reincarnation into a virtual science. When one of the heads of their monastic orders passes away, they find the reincarnation of that lama and reinstall him in the same position as he was when he passed away. Even the Dalai Lama was 3 years old when they made him the spiritual and temporal head of Tibet. So they have a lot of faith in reincarnation. So Rinpoches are regarded with great respect in Tibet. And today we are going to talk to one of the most respected Rinpoches in the Tibetan order, His Holiness Tai Situ Rinpoche. Rinpoche, so wonderful to see you.
Yes, Sir Kabir Bedi ji. Yes, happy to see you.
I am honored that you call me Ji and you call me Sir. You are the one that we venerate because of your exalted position, not only in my life, but also in the life of Tibetan Buddhism. I want to say that Rinpoche has not only a monastic order in Himachal Pradesh, which is also a university. 700 to 1,000 people are in this university and monastic order headed by Tai Situ Rinpoche. That is only a small indication of his importance in the Tibetan Buddhist order. And so I talked to him with a lot of veneration, a lot of respect, and I just want to recall with him his guru, His Holiness the Karmapa, who was also my mother's guru. You both shared a guru in His Holiness, am I right?
Yes, perfectly.
And His Holiness's monastery was Rumtek Monastery in Sikkim. And you spent many years in Rumtek Monastery with my mother after she was ordained. How much time did you spend with her?
Yes, actually, I actually came to know Freda Bedi ji before I came to Rumtek. Freda Bedi ji actually helped me very much as part of her Tibetan friend circle around the world. And she introduced one American lady called Nola McGarry when I was very young, and she supported me, especially when I was very ill. I was in West Bengal for medical treatment for 3 years. So during that time, the American lady who is introduced by Mummy sent me regular money to pay for my medical bills. And
I want to remind people. Yes. I wanted to remind people, because they don't know, that when the Tibetan refugee exodus took place in 1959, and the Dalai Lama had to come to India, hundreds of thousands of Tibetans followed him across the mountains from Tibet and came to India as refugees. And as one of the ways of helping the refugees, my mother started this thing called the Tibetan Friendship Group, where she would link people, refugees, with donors abroad and put them in touch directly so they could help each other. So Situ Rinpoche was referring to the benefactor that my mother put him in touch with as part of the Tibetan friendship group. So, Situ Rinpoche, why did you call my mother Mamila?
Everybody called her Mamila, but for me personally, actually, my mother was left behind when we escaped, and my lamas brought me from my monastic seat in East Tibet, which is the head of 480 monasteries.
Wow,
which is founded by my predecessors for past 900 years. To be
so
precise,
your line of incarnations is 900 years.
Actually, as a Situ is 900 years, but before that, as a Marpa Lotsawa, more than 1,000 years.
Amazingly sacred and long lineage, and
yes,
to be sitting in the presence of such people is just extraordinary. When my mother was in the Misamari refugee camps, and I visited her there, and all these people were coming in various states of distress and various states of no clothes and hungry and bad health. They would come to my mother for help, and she was looking after all the refugees, and I would keep calling her Mummy, so all of them started calling her Mamila, La being like G in Hindi. So therefore, Mamila became her title. She became virtually mother to a generation of Tibetans that came to India. I've chronicled all this in my books, Stories I Must Tell, which you must read, Rinpoche. I must send it to you so you can read the book and see all that I have chronicled in there. But she realized that monks and lamas and high lamas like you do not need to be given a vocation. You have vocations. You are great leaders. You're great teachers. You're trained as great teachers. You're repositories of great knowledge. And what was needed was that the lamas and tulkus and reincarnates and rinpoches learn English so that enables them to go abroad. And that was the root of the young lamas homeschool. Did you have many friends that went to the young lamas homeschool?
Yes, I have a lot of them. I knew Mamiji before Young Lama School, but Young Lama School was first found in Delhi, New Delhi.
That's right. That's right. I remember. I was
Dalai Lama blessed it. But later, it moved to Dalhousie, and then it became Young Lama's home school.
That's right.
It is all the effort of Freda Bedi ji, the Mummy ji. There, Mamila came and then resided in Rumtek. So since Mamila came and resided in Rumtek as a nun, then I saw her every single day. I spent so many hours every day with His Holiness 16th Javakamapa, receiving teachings and doing meditations and pujas, especially pujas together. Then Mamila was there in the same room. And
I'm sure you saw a lot more of her in those years than I saw of her in those years, because you were seeing her every day. And for us, she was a mother who went up to the monastery and began a whole new life. When she began the Young Lamas homeschool, many lamas that studied at the homeschool and learnt their English were enabled to go abroad and set up centers abroad. In fact, I would dare say that most of the major Tibetan monasteries set up abroad were headed by lamas that learnt their English at the Young Lamas homeschool, including Trungpa Rinpoche, including Akong Rinpoche. Trungpa set up all the great centers in America. Akong Rinpoche built the most beautiful monastery in Europe, in the wilds of Scotland, Samyeling. That institution became a very important center for the dissemination of Buddhism in the West, a sort of gateway to Buddhism in the West, and many of your friends were there. Many of the superstars of the Buddhist world, like you, also went from there into the West. But I want to try and ask you what you can remember or know of the Karmapa's world tour in 1974, where my mother organized for him to go to America and Europe and spread the word of the Buddha.
Yes, actually, the Delhi school was started 1960. So thereafter, the Dalhousie, and then 1963, the Chogyam Trungpa and his disciple Akong Tuku Rinpoche went to Europe, to UK. And then subsequently started Samye Ling. And a few years after, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche decided to go to America and start Vajradhatu, Dharma Dhatu,
right.
and Shambhala, so many centers there. And
yes.
then 1970, 1971, the Kalu Rinpoche, who is a very senior master from Palpung, then went to Europe and America and established in a big number of centers there, and also retreat centers there, and also several temples. And 74, his son Karmapa went to the West, and
That's right.
that time the Mamila, you know, that actually Gelongma Palmo, she was already a bhikshuni. So then Gelongma Palmo, very, very venerable. So she accompanied His Holiness 16th Karmapa for this entire trip. And then that was Europe, America, Canada, everywhere in the Western Hemisphere. And
that did a lot to promote Buddhism.
Yes, a lot. And then subsequently, like Chime Rinpoche, Ato Rinpoche, and many others. There's so many from the Dalhousie. They all went. And I finished all my study and everything when I was 22 years old. Then I went out to start to revive my own institution, the Mount of Excellence Non-Sectarian Palpung Institution, which is founded by my predecessor HH Tai Situ in 1727. So 1727. Now it is about almost 300 years old. So to continue that, then I started the Palpung Sherabling Monastic Seat. That was on 1976. I left in 1975 and started 1976. In between, I spent quite a few years in Ladakh. Went in, came out, because winter there is very severe. So winter time, I'm in Himachal. Yes.
I think the Tibetans have done more for the spread of Buddhism in the West than anybody else has. They have built tremendous monasteries. They have sent great teachers. They have imparted great learnings and meditations to people, and had many people discover Buddhism because of all the efforts that they made. Even not just the monks, even nuns came into the fold in America. And as you know, my mother set up the first Tibetan nunnery in India, and you were looking after that as well after she passed away. in Tilokpur. And I thank you very much for keeping that tradition alive that was restarted by my mother in Tilokpur, because it's very important that women have a very important role in the religion, not just as lay disciples, but also as teachers, as practitioners, and have places to go if they wish to seek ordination.
Yes.
And I know that you support that greatly.
Yes, actually, the Mamiji started the Kama Dubju Darjeeling in Telokpur, Nanuri, and
Yes.
after Mami's passing away, then the nuns came to me, and then I did my best to support them. I went there also several times. And then His Holiness the 17th Karmapa came to India in the year 2000. So
you're not just for the people. I want to explain that now Rinpoche is talking about the incarnation of His Holiness the Karmapa, the reincarnation of His Holiness the Karmapa. Who was their guru?
Yes. So he came to India. He came to India from Tibet, escaped from Tibet to India, and then he settled near His Holiness Dalai Lama's abode near Dharamsala. At that time, then I handed over the Telokpur nunnery to His Holiness the 17th Karmapa. Since that time, his administration is looking after it. Yes.
Right. I wanted you to give us a brief idea of what the central teachings of Buddhism are, and why they're important for people in the world.
Yes.
The central beliefs of Buddhism, so they understand better.
Yes. Actually, I think it is so large and so enormous. It's like an Amazon forest, and try to explain every plant and every life form there is enormous.
Not easy.
So make it simple is the best way, as Sir just mentioned. So to make it very simple, then we have to go back to the basics, because words, the language is very important. So here in Tibetan language, how to describe Buddhism, we say Nangpa. Nang means insight. Pa means a person who believes or practices or everything insight. So let's say, to become a better person, we don't find that betterness outside of us. That is inside of us. And we have to awaken that. That is what Buddha, the awakened one, means. The inner potential, ever-present potential. Even the worst person, something went wrong relatively, but ultimate essence is intact, uncorruptible. So even the worst person, most distorted one, can awake and become best person, and then even become Buddha. So the Nangpa means all the solutions are inside, not outside. Inside. So that means to say in 2 words, everyone and everything is perfect naturally at all time. But ultimately and relatively, of course, I am not perfect. There's so many, everyone have some imperfection that they have to work on. Otherwise, we have nothing to do. And so I don't think it is a bad thing to have something to work out, and improve. So I have a lot. And I think 7 billion people, each one of them have a lot to work on.
So there's hope for all of us, all the 7 billion, no matter how imperfect we are. And for their welfare, for their well-being, may I ask you to say a short prayer before we conclude our discussion.
Yes, perfectly. Sunamdi tamche zibani tamne nyebe danam bhamjene chegananji balap tubaye sibian sole drowa drowar sho jambal pawe chitar chemba tang kundu zambo teyang tejinde Teda kunji jesu dalab jing gyawan de datam je rabdo ho chanchu simcho rinpoche mache panam chejur jin jeban nyamba mebaryo kone kondun pewar shu teya da penzandriya awa bodanaye so ha.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. What a great way
You're
to
most welcome.
what a great way to celebrate Buddha Purnima. What a great way to honor the memory of my mother. What a great symbol of our mutual friendship and your contribution to the world of Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism. I thank you for this conversation and for being here.
Yes, I did do my best. And what I have said here cannot do any justice to the great contribution that Mamila, the Gelongma Khenpo Parma have done, really. But I think it is just a pure token. And thank you very much.
Thank you for your love and blessings, Rinpoche. Thank you so much, Your Holiness.
Yes, yes.
I'm most indebted and delighted to have talked to you. Most honored. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Most welcome.